I'll block you. Meeting called to order. Today is Tuesday, April 9th. It is 6:02 PM. Town council meeting in Town Council Chambers, 1170 Main Street, West Warwick, Rhode Island. Mark, you lead us in the prayer.
Heavenly Father, we ask for the wisdom to make good decisions, to speak with confidence and listen with compassion, and to work together to create a better way of life for the people of West Warwick.
Okay, Beth, you lead us in the pledge of allegiance?
Pledge allegiance to the flag, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You should have seen. Yeah. It's in the national anthem.
Yeah.
Roll call. Councilman Dennison?
Here.
Councilman Licciardi is not here. Councilman Messier is not here. Council Vice President Williamson?
Here.
And Council President Goslin.
Yeah, for the record, Councilman Licciardi's at a wake. It's a very long line. He'll be here shortly.
Quorum is declared. New business, discussion action, ballot question for town council stipend increase. So this item is just you guys voting of whether you want to have it as a ballot question, not the wording of the ballot question.
So we talked about that extensively last time.
I'm outnumbered.
How does it feel?
Well, I think, majority,
I don't think you're out on this.
no, I know.
Yeah.
I think we discussed it that, talking about giving ourselves a raise is one thing, but having the voters make that decision since they put us here, is another. And when we talk about the stipend, Sarah, I didn't get a chance to look today, but in the charter, does it say stipend or does it say, yeah, I
Compensation, I don't
don't know if it says compensation or stipend, but
I don't think it said stipend. It didn't come up when I first stipend.
and again,
Compensation, members of the town council shall receive such annual salary as shall from time to time be presented by the town council and approved by the budget process. President of the town council shall receive such additional salary as shall from time to time be presented by the town council and approved by the budget process. No increase in salary shall take effect until after the next biennial election of the town council. So that means that if you guys were, or the voters were to approve it, it would not take effect until.
We'd probably say January anyway. Yeah. Yeah.
tax year, all,
Yeah.
all good stuff. With that being said, any other discussion from the council?
I don't think putting it in front of the voters is the way to go. I think it should be done by the people up here, simply because while the voters deserve a lot of credit on, their knowledge of a lot of the issues, they don't necessarily know what the folks up here go through day in and day out. So I think it should be, done by the folks up here. That's just my 2 cents.
And I'm not, and if I recall, you weren't comfortable with it. You were a no vote anyway.
Right.
And I am a no vote, but if it were to go before the voters and they thought it was okay, I would go along with it. So that's where I stand.
You too? With that being said, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Oppose.
2-1.
Sorry, someone just needs to make a motion.
Oh.
We don't have an actual motion.
Oh,
Well,
I just said it was discussion action. So we need a motion.
so I'd make a motion that we put it on the ballot and the raise the salary increase take effect January 1. And I assume we will decide on actual wording at the next meeting.
Yes.
Yes, okay.
Do I have a second? I'll second that if I know. I won't put you in that predicament. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Oppose.
Ayes have it, 2-1.
All right, approval of bid award for the reevaluation services.
I'll move the resolution.
Second.
Move second, Kristen? wanna just give us-
Sal is going to talk on this, just to give an overview of the two companies that bid.
Okay, revaluation, we only had two bidders. Our existing company, Northeast Revaluation, had a bid of 184,000. And then Tyler had a bid of 132,000. Tyler is only in one other Rhode Island community at this moment. They had a few more, they were never that populate
Was Tyler here
throughout the
once?
state.
Tyler was here one time, at one time.
Yes, we had Tyler, it was good back in 2010. So that's 13 years. So, I had spoken with one of their representatives and they were looking to try to get back into the state. So I'm not sure if they just lowballed their bid, try to get some action, maybe
mean,
someone will vote
52
for it or not.
52,000's a lot.
However, the amount that we pay, because we are a distressed community and it's a statistical revaluation, we get 80% reimbursement. So if you do the math on those two numbers, it's only a $10,000 difference between the two bids.
So there's a revenue line?
Include the web hosting.
Okay, there are some things that Tyler is not doing. That was part of the bid. Web hosting, which now we don't pay for because we're using Northeast, but we'd have to pay for that. I'm not sure what the price might be, 5,000 a year or more. I mean, a maintenance fee is almost 6,000, so I gotta think that it's probably close to that same amount. Northeast has been here for the past dozen years, a lot more familiar with the town. Their local representatives that have been here, so they've had the same staff over that time. So I feel comfortable with them than I do with going with someone brand new.
That can be good
It-
and bad,
Right.
as you know.
Also, yes, Tyler is supposed to be using the Northeast software. I don't know, there was nothing in the bids about if they had to pay a licensing fee, if they're allowed to do that, or if they make changes and something breaks, well, Northeast is not responsible, but Tyler's a separate company. They have their own software, but we wanted to use the Northeast software that we have. We didn't want to change at a statistical. Something like that you would do on a full reval. But they have to do a conversion and a lot more detailed.
So they're only using Northeast software because we requested that as
Yes.
part of the bid
That's right.
process.
That's right.
And you're just not sure if something should go wrong with that, if they're gonna pick that up or try to pass the cost along to us?
Right. I mean, we pay a maintenance fee, but if the other company's using it, they're in there they're in the back end,
Yeah.
making changes to all these tables that they derive from doing the statistical analysis per foot cost, effective age, economic obsolescence.
So it looked like Tyler does a lot of work in Connecticut, based on what they
Yeah.
sent to us.
Yeah.
And you say they were in Rhode Island at some point in time?
They had, I don't even know if they had a dozen communities. I know they, they were in Warwick maybe at one time, they were here. I'm not sure where else. I think they just received Newport. I think last year Newport went with them. I'm not sure if it was a full reval or not.
I think you're right. I think it was Newport.
Yes, so there are 6 companies listed on the
Yeah,
Department of
there's
Revenue.
only 3 that are really active. Northeast, I think, has the majority of the state. And Tyler is an active company, but not in Rhode Island at the moment. Those other companies are small companies. I think they just pay to keep their fee. Sometimes they're used by communities that don't have an assessor for a while in transition. I think a couple of them were working in one socket over the past 2 or 3 years while they were trying to fill their assessor's position.
So based upon the revenue, well, based upon the bid, you're doing the math, obviously, $50,000, but when you're saying we're getting 80% reimbursement, it's gonna be about a $10,000 difference.
So is there a revenue? I should know this. So that reimbursement we get, where is that shown?
In revenue.
It is revenue. So you'd have to,
Yep, so I have already.
because you have 160, I think, in the
Yeah,
expense
so
line.
I already have, proposals based on what happens tonight
Okay.
to make the changes.
But with that $10,000 difference, that doesn't include the web posting and the software issue if something
That much,
happens,
right.
which that'll be another $2,000 basically left.
And on the budget end, because we had already budgeted
160.
60.
Right.
it was only going to it would only be addition of,
$4,880. I'm bumping the expense up by 24 and
Yeah.
revenue by
Right.
19 too.
And when does that revenue come in? How does that work, just logistically?
as I receive invoices, I submit to the state. They verify everything and send it back. They might do it on a quarterly basis.
Any other questions for Sal?
No, I guess it's a lot of money. It's a big difference. Just because it's a different company and new technology, although you're saying they're using Northeast technology isn't a good reason. And complacency can be a problem if people get too comfortable. But it sounds like you've done your homework and for a few $1,000s as opposed to the 52, it might make sense to stick with Northeast. But they should also understand that they're not a given every year.
And without getting too deep into this, because I know it can be a very long discussion, the reason we want them to use the software from Northeast is why? Is it integrated with our systems? Is that the
Yeah,
issue?
yes, a lot of the other pieces in town are GIS maps. Some of the clerk stuff that I pull over, building inspection, imports into the software are
Yep.
all part of Northeast.
But I assume, again, so I don't like to think that they think that's a lifetime commitment because we're so integrated. That concerns me a little
Well, because
bit.
if someone, at a full reval, and you're looking to get more people involved, you would mention all of those things in
Okay.
there that this is what we use,
Integration has to
and
happen,
this is
we
how
have to-
you have to
yes.
integrate,
Yep.
which is how most towns work nowadays.
Okay.
Any other questions for Sal? We need a motion for whatever.
So I would move the resolution to approve Catalyst or Northeast. I don't know which they go by.
North,
It says
yeah,
Catalyst on,
GBA Northeast.
as the vendor of choice.
Second.
Moving second, any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it.
Do you need an amount in that motion?
I mean, I don't think
Well-
so because it's in the backup.
Want to make sure that's all.
Actually, I called you about that yesterday. Sorry.
That's okay, no, I just want to
Yeah,
make sure
it
that she's
probably,
all
it
full on
probably
it.
should be. I will amend the motion to choose Catalyst Northeast Reval in the amount of $184,000.
Second.
Moving second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it.
Resolution supporting the litter-free Rhode Island campaign.
Move the resolution.
Second, sorry. I was right.
Any discussion? Mark?
I won't read it unless you want to, but the governor's office is making an extensive effort to increase awareness and garner community support of anti-litter campaigns. So I know we just applied for and received a grant of $750, which is the max that they've committed to each community to help offset some minor cost when you host Earth Day pickups, which we'll be doing on May 4th. And this is just one more component to their awareness plan,
And I assume this language came from League of Cities and Towns or someplace like
the
that?
governor's office.
Yeah,
and
perfect. Okay.
That heat or AC? Already?
It's noisy.
Open the windows.
It's not in the budget.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Public comment. Any public comment on the budget? I mean, not even the budget, I'm sorry, the council agenda. Hearing none?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. One down. 3 to go, 4 to go. There it is. Continue? Don't even have to, one recording?
Yep, we're doing one recording for all.
All right, meeting call to order. Today is Tuesday, April 9th. It is now 6:19 PM. Town Council going over the West Warwick Civic Center budget. Laurie?
Nope. Do you need to do a roll call?
Oh, yeah.
Just
roll
note for the record that present is Councilman Dennison, Council Vice President Williamson, and Council President Goslin. Not present is Jason Lichardi and Councilman Messier. Quorum is declared.
Evening. Nothing has changed. Still the same guideline. Everything is wonderful.
Want to say the numbers, please?
You really want to go over the numbers?
Just say the numbers, what revenue?
Oh.
Can't get out of here, that.
Trying. So my expenses will be 837, and my revenues will be
The same.
774,837. It will be a balanced budget. And I will try really hard to get it as close to that as possible and spend as much as I can.
Nice.
It was good till that last part.
Yep.
But,
Yeah.
yeah.
She's learning well.
I am
Yeah.
learning, but you know,
Yeah.
it's the summer camp that always, you know, because a lot of people, like, they get their tax money and they pay their summer camp portion, like, up front. So like that, you know, that always does throw everything else off, but I mean, it is what it is.
Any questions for Laurie on our budget? Thank you, Laurie. Any public comment on the Civic Center budget? Just want to point out, I think everybody here is an employee. Just pointing that out. All right, no comment. I need.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Continue? Straight through? Tony's on his way. There it is. Oh, who said you were next? No, you really don't. Let's- All right, meeting called to order. Today is Tuesday, April 9th. It is now 6:22 PM. West Warwick Town Council acting as a sewer mission to go over fiscal 25 budget workshop.
Council President Goslin.
Huh? No. Just for the record, Councilman Lichardi and Councilman Messier are absent.
Jeff.
Evening, council.
Hey, Jeff, how are you?
Good, how are you? So tonight, we're going to be presenting our wastewater facility budget for fiscal year 25.
In reviewing the budget, you may have noticed that we will not be asking for a rate increase. We are looking to be good financial stewards while being responsible for properly addressing the needs of the facility and the collection system. One area we are looking to increase in the budget is overtime. This is what we're looking to do based upon a past 3-year average. Another item we will discuss is increasing the UV disinfection system. While the upgrade to the system, it's an approved project, but we still need to have adequate funding for any critical parts that we need prior to the upgrade being complete. One area of decrease is our severance and buybacks. We've had a few people retire over the past couple of years, and we don't plan anyone retiring this year, so we're going to be decreasing that line item. This is just a broad overview of our budget. I want to turn it over to Tony, our Director of Administration, to go a little more in depth with it. Go ahead, Tony.
Thank you, Jeff. Good evening, council. Just to go into a little bit more, expand on what Jeff said, our budget request for fiscal year 25 is $9,558,522. A couple of areas where we're going to see increases next year is sludge removal. Our contract with Synagro calls for a CPI adjustment on July 1st. Excuse me. And the proposed budget will allow for additional offloads at resource recovery. Another area of increase is the odor control line item from $61,500 to $71,700. This is to comply with the DEM requirements as a result of the odor control study. And as Jeff mentioned, the increase in a line item, for UV system parts and maintenance from $16,150 to $50,000. This is attributed to our UV system being obsolete, parts are not being manufactured for it anymore, and the bulbs are very expensive and they're hard to come by. That's the, while that is a planned project and is part of the bond authorization the commission approved, for the next fiscal year, we will need to purchase bulbs, and they, like I said, they're obsolete and they are expensive. Some decreases we're going to see are in retiree health insurance, as Jeff mentioned, severance and buyback pay due to we don't have any long-term employees that are eligible for retirement. And when we prepared the budget, we were anticipating, based on current year and trends, that our heat line item would go down. The plant heats with oil, but as we've all seen in the last couple of weeks, the issue in Baltimore, we're going to have to see how that affects fuel prices and oil prices, and I may need to take a look at that again before the first and second public hearing. Other than that, Council President, I'll just open it up if you have any questions.
Any questions for Jeff or Tony?
No, I will just say that I know that there was a lot of work done on the budget. What was sent to us on Friday by Tony was clearly a team effort to put that together. I appreciate the explanations that he has provided, gone into a little more depth today, and the fact that we are able to put the budget forward with no increase, I think makes it clear that they are trying to be good stewards of taxpayer money, ratepayer money. How's that? Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Makes life a little easier.
Yes.
Any other questions?
And Kristen, you did make changes that we talked about as far as admin fee in this budget. Yep. Thank you.
Yes, they
Yep.
are in there.
Thank you.
Any public comment on the sewer budget? Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Council.
That being said.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Have a good night.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Tony.
Maybe we should have made them wait till last because they took off. Even Lori stuck around. All right. Meeting called to order. Today is Tuesday, April 9th. It is now 6:28 PM. Town Council and second public hearing.
Roll call. Councilman Dennison,
Here.
Councilman Chardy, and Councilman Messier are absent. Council Vice President Williamson,
Here.
Council President Goslin.
Here.
Quorum is declared. public hearing on the proposed fiscal year 2025 municipal budget.
If you like, I can read our key budget points again. However, you've made changes last week that makes them not accurate, but
So you can update your notes?
no. They're still in flux until after today.
What a guy you are, really you are.
It was a long day, tell you about that.
So the key budget points up until last week, the total budget increase from my proposal was slightly more than 7.2 million. That was inclusive of slightly more than 2 million in municipal expenses, 5 million in school state aid pass-through appropriation with no increase to the school department's local appropriation. The levy increase proposed in my edition was 1.22%, or slightly more than $800,000. The approximate tax increase related to that was 2.35%. Funds are reserved for anticipated collective bargaining salary adjustments for union and non-union personnel in the coming year. Capital expenditure request totaled 436,000. Again, we continue to plan on proposing use of ARPA funds through the remainder of this calendar year and aggressively seek federal, state, and private grants and aid. We fully transitioned to the employee retirement system of Rhode Island. The rates provided by ERSRI have been applied to all pensionable salary types within their respective departments, and the legacy plan employee rates will stay the same as this current fiscal year. A 7% decrease in our healthcare working rates has been applied. Transition to the Rhode Island Interlocal Trust for Healthcare Management has been successful to date. The decrease to workers' comp is due to our experience modification dropping again for favorable claims experience. The assumed tax collection rate in this proposal is 97.0%, and there is no planned use of fund balance for fiscal 25.
All right.
You have some updated numbers for us. Yes.
So I want to make a proposal to increase the tax assessor revaluation line by 24,000 to 184. Increase the revenues in revaluation reimbursement to by 19,200, which is that number is to 147.2. And do you want to talk about the other one?
Certainly. I sent an email, my Friday email with something that kind of came up. Under general government and the consulting line, I'm going to ask for your consideration to restore the cuts that I had recommended last week and add to the line item to become a total amount of $60,000. While we say we want to explore and aggressively seek grant funding, these processes are generally cumbersome, long, and require time and skills that we don't necessarily have internally in every department. So I'm proposing that the town engage the professional services of a combination grant writer and lobbyist we've worked with in the past to enhance our efforts and successes, especially as the ARPA funds are exhausted. We will need the supplemental funding to continue to improve our infrastructure and services while we keep our reliance on local property taxes to a minimum. Just in my experience and my belief is we've hesitated for some grant funding due to unbudgeted co-shares that are generally required. Now that we've had 2 years of positive experience in having surpluses, it would be my recommendation that we keep that knowledge and have the awareness that we can dip into those when we are granted grants or other federal aid and have the ability to draw upon savings if we don't have something in a particular fiscal year to cover that.
So out of that 60,000, are you looking for a grant writer?
Essentially, we would engage a grant writer / lobbyist who is utilized. My plan would be to utilize that for a professional service professional who works in at least 8 or 9 other communities. She helped us with our grants last year that we received, just helped submit 3 in the past week. And it's kind of been a call as needed scenario, but there's so much going on with the flooding reimbursements that it would seem appropriate to, in the next fiscal year, to engage that on a retainer basis, which I would put together and propose at a later date.
So we're sort of paying as you go at this point in time, using this, this woman who has, actually, we've been very successful. She was involved in the $1.5 million award that we got this past year.
Correct.
So as you are authorized to do, you've been paying her that way, and you just want to put it in the budget is basically what you're saying.
Right.
Okay.
So we have a little bit more right now. We had that as 40,000. I suggested lowering it to 25. However, after consideration and see how much work the grant process has been and the amount that looks like is going to continue coming, I don't want to leave that money on the table.
So tell me what line we're talking about?
It's consulting under general government.
Yeah.
1090, general government,
Might be one of the last
towards the
ones.
bottom.
No,
Tab we talked.
10, tab 11. General government.
It's the third one from the bottom.
So you're looking to bump that up 20,000 more, no,
You want it to be 60.
60.
We brought it down to
Yeah.
25, so we're looking to bring it
So
back
did
up.
we did that last week?
Yeah. We brought it down by 15. It was in that group that I read off. With the health and dental.
Oh, okay. All right. I was
Use
gonna
that
say
word
there was
as
not, I don't remember
proposed.
you actually doing it. I don't have a note that
Yeah.
you did that. So it was part of the whole, yes. Okay. So that's
So
gonna
it'll be
go
a bump
from
up of 35 back
back up
to
and
60.
above, yes,
Okay.
to 60. Yep.
Those three changes net to an effect on the budget, 39,800. But we did get some updated valuations. And right now, with a 1.9% tax increase, which was, I think, what we were at last week, I left it at that 1.9 with those rates. And I had some wiggle room
Okay.
I was keeping, just, till we figure out the other exemption issue.
Senior exemption,
Yeah.
which I'm gonna give you an update on that. Councilman Licciardi sent me a text early this afternoon. He told me he was gonna be late. Representative Serper and Senator Burke said passage on senior exemption should go through at the end of April. I don't know, that's when it's gonna be proposed, not passage itself, but when it's proposed, his suggestion was take 150,000 from last year's $1 million surplus, and this should keep the tax rate under 2%. And then he talked about,
I think we said,
council
didn't
spending.
Well,
Oh, you
like
actually-
he's saying, don't touch the tax rate and
Take it out of the surplus.
supplant it with use of fund balance. But
The only thing
thought-
about supplanting it
that's
is
a-
next year,
that's a
yeah,
slippery slope.
I mean, we're still very conservative with our 97% collection rate. And I mean, I almost feel we could raise the rate a little bit to cover that, or we could see how it shakes out this year with, with the exemption as far as our revenue collection, what it does to our levy and
And actually, Sal, maybe it's a question for you. The 150. And you came up with some numbers as to how much that would cost us. That was based on the people that currently take advantage of the exemption.
That was, we were talking about the senior exemption. I don't know if we wanted to have seniors and veterans involved. The veterans were, right now, they're like half the amount of the seniors.
Okay. But I think
So-
we were primarily talking about veterans, I mean, seniors last week,
right, yeah.
I believe.
If we increased it to 17,000 for a senior from where it is now, it would be approximately $100,000.
What's that now?
if the senior exemption was increased, currently it's 14,000 per person. If we increased it to 17,000 per person, in revenue money, it would be $99,000.
And that's average, based off today's tax rate.
It would, yeah,
Yeah, but no.
be about a 3 cent,
What would
oh,
they-
sorry,
what
about
would
a
they say
5 cent
about
increase on the rate.
Another 48, no, $54. $54 credit toward, around there.
How much more in taxes would you?
Yeah, well, if you look at 3,000,
$300,000 house with a
because it's going from 14 to 17, so it's only
Right.
going up 3,000, right? So
3,000,
you're getting
right?
$3,000.
Right, be about another $60.
Times the tax rate,
Yeah.
it's about $54.
Yes.
$55
Yes,
per senior.
and then if he added the veterans in with it, that would be the 150,000 that he was talking about.
And the average homeowner,
You would have to pass, you would have to
Per
pass an
thousand.
ordinance
Yeah.
changing what the existing ordinance says,
So
up to,
again, that's assuming that only the people that currently take advantage of it take advantage of it. So if all of a sudden twice the number of people, because we've given it a little publicity, come in, it's gonna have a different impact.
no, and I agree with the publicity, but we should be promoting this to the seniors, because obviously somebody came up to the microphone last time and said, oh, this is available. I mean, I know.
But you
when-
have to understand what the long-term impact will be on the budget
No,
process.
no, I understand.
For this year, yes, for this year, the application period
there
is,
are approximately 5,600 single-family homes.
yeah,
1,900 of them receive the exemption.
1,900 have.
19 out of 56.
Yep.
So 2/5. I don't think you're gonna get a doubling of the exemption.
No, but what I mean by promoting it is skip this increase, skip everything. I mean, I know when I have a senior citizen call me and talk about taxes, whatever, I ask them, I ask them, did they apply for this, this and this, I ask them if they're a veteran. I ask them if, hate asking people their age, but I ask, are you a senior citizen?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no,
yeah.
it's, I ask if you're a Gold Star parent or, and so on and so forth. Because there's so many out there that they don't realize that they're entitled to. And I think we, as a town, probably have to do a better job of making sure that we're reaching out to our senior citizens. And I know a lot of them live in like the apartments and the Clyde Towers and Robert Street and whatever. So, I mean, they don't really see any exemption anyway, because they don't pay taxes. But, the ones that are supposedly living in their house and they're having that tough time and, every dollar matters, we do need to promote it. I agree with you. Like if we promote it and all of a sudden another 200-300 people come in, that could adversely affect the budget, but.
As Kristen points out, it's too late this year to apply for this.
Yes,
So
Yeah.
anything would be prospective anyway.
yes.
Yeah, so because it would be very difficult to ever scale it back again. That's all I want to make sure of. If we're going to give it, let's make sure we're comfortable with what we're giving, because coming back is not an
So-
option
so
really.
Currently, I think with this rate increase, it was going to be $268 in savings without any changes.
And you're going to add another 54, did you say? 50, yeah.
It'll be up 300, 310.
56.
I also want to bring up one other thing, just so that we know the tangible tax, how it's going to affect us. It's in play right now because they changed the wording on how they were calculating it at the 11th hour, which gave us more. But other municipalities are complaining and they may go back to the original version, so we're right in the middle. Where I budgeted is right in the middle. If they keep it the way it is, we're actually gonna get a little bit more than what I have budgeted. If they decide to go back, we're gonna lose about 132,000. I don't know.
What did they change, Kristen? Do you know?
The formula,
It was supposed to be just the exemption was going to be reimbursed.
Oh,
They changed it so that the difference in the levy, the tangible levy, would be reimbursed.
so why are people complaining about that?
Because Providence is not going to get any money back.
Oh, well,
And Warwick is not going to get any money back by putting that levy wording in as opposed to just the
okay.
exemption itself.
this was a big discussion at the League of Cities and Towns Convention. We told them, I mean, we need to know, everyone needs to know ASAP.
A couple of
So-
towns have already passed their budgets, waiting, I don't know if they had their town meeting yet, based on that information. So these towns are gonna lose out, they gotta scramble for $100,000 at some point.
That's in play. Based on the last few years of performance with our collections and everything, I'm not overly concerned about it, but I just want you all to be aware of it, that it is a factor.
So that'd be about 132 if we move the other way.
Correct. It will be an extra, 50 or 60,000 more, because our values have changed again since he initially gave me the $955,000 number. We'd get more if they keep it the way it is. And I don't know if they have enough time to change it. They would really have to push hard to get that legislation.
They're chomping at the bit. Friday was the deadline for all of the towns to submit their information to the board and to the, was it Senator
It was the, Rhode Island League's Representative,
Yeah.
David Boda.
Boda and,
Yeah.
and it was, and I think it was brought up at the assembly by Alves. I'm not sure,
Later?
Slater?
He's Providence.
Yeah,
Yeah,
right,
yeah.
yeah.
You can add that
Yeah,
to it.
yeah.
Um,
I find it hard to believe, quite honestly, that they're going to leave it so Providence and Warwick are out in the cold. So,
And they could come up with some creative, they have a pot of money.
yeah,
They could come up with some kind of creative where it doesn't harm, for the 1 year till they get their, figure out what they're gonna do. But I just, I want to make sure that, I'm in the middle. We could go up, we could go down. It's a factor.
Any other discussion on that?
so when Jason talked about 150 in total, and I am actually not a huge fan of taking it out of surplus, to be honest with you. I just think that's a slippery slope, but,
Yeah, because next year you owe the
You gotta-
150
that's
plus
right.
another one
Then
on
you have a
top of it.
hole, yeah. If we do this, does it put us above 2%?
If I bump up the residential by the 5 cents, it's 2.2.
Yeah. No. I know there was some discussion about moving it across all categories too, but I don't know that that's right either. Opinion?
I mean, it's going up a nickel on one, they're gonna make it 3 cents, and the other ones are gonna go up a penny a piece.
I said,
You say categories.
So we have 4
Family,
tax
yeah.
categories, so.
I just make the rounds in the
Yeah.
vote.
right,
You want me to see if everyone at 2%, whatever it does?
what the number would be, you mean back into it?
Yeah.
We put shares in the budget. We just keep
I
peeling.
know, it's all over, yeah.
We're sitting here with pulling leather off my head.
They're looking at it under this year.
So if everyone across the board went up 2%, that would give us the wiggle room to cover the additional exemption. Yeah, I mean, increase in voting. It would give us about 75% of it. I'd have to bump a little bit more. Yeah, I probably have to do like 2.10 on residential. And 2% on the rest.
Does that make sense? As, I don't, doing, I'm asking for input because doing it to other categories, does that?
I think, you said 1,900 homes are using the exemption out of 60 something, 150.
Residential houses, yeah.
And that other 5,000 houses are gonna see an additional, not including the 2%, they're gonna see a little increase on top of the 2%
Right.
to cover it. How do you think they feel? Like, and yes, they're gonna be seniors someday. Yeah, there's so many scenarios that,
The businesses, you get all your industrial and commercial would be,
and that's I mean, I know we increased, and I wish I can remember when we increased it again, but I remember one of my constituents, and JP Millet, he sent me a text and he said, hey, by the way, thank you for my extra senior exemption this year. And because he was happy, he saw something, right, a little more. And that wasn't too long ago. And
No, it's
what I'm
like,
trying to
yeah.
figure out here is, and I understand there was a lot of pressure about exemption, tax freeze, whatever. And recently I've gotten 2 emails about tax freezing, and I pointed out that other communities are trying to get out of it now. And, it's a tough situation because you feel and you want to figure it out, but there's also other families that are struggling in today's day and age, and, these houses aren't cheap anymore. They have to, take it for what it's worth. I think when a majority, if, and again, I don't know people's income. I don't know anything about any of that. But if you've done everything right in per se in life, you're probably mortgage free at 68, 70 years old.
I'm not sure that's true anymore. I agree with
No,
you. That was the
no, I
goal
know.
in
But
the
you
past.
got
but-
these 30-something-year-olds buying houses at $400,000, $500,000 at a, appraisal of 350, and, and that house was probably 175 10 years ago, so it's hard to,
So just once
Right.
again, for my clarity, $58 would be the relief
56. I think,
56?
something.
additional, yeah.
If we
if we're
did,
using all the averages. and all
Yes.
that.
if we did,
That was based on the rate, this rate, 1867.
I'm sorry, I must have napped for a minute. The $56 is if we did the whole 150,000,
If we did a
$90,000.
$3,000.
$3,000.
which is equates to
17,000.
Right, if
150.
we did both the senior and,
I think it's just
99.9 for
100.
senior and
right, 50.
51
yeah,
for-
yeah, 50, 150.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Can we just back them off? I'm adamant about keeping the tax rate under 2. if we
I
can.
am too. I
I mean, that's, I feel strongly about that for everyone's sake across the board. So if we could wedge them back a little bit, if we did, I don't know.
75.
80, yeah,
37 and a half.
No,
I would love it to start with a 1.
so do you want me to spread it overall for?
I don't know that makes sense to me,
Okay.
but I'm only one person.
So if I do 1.99 and then leave the rest at 1.90, that's gonna generate. Maybe an additional 40,000. We'll put it back, but. No partial cover it.
And that's at 199 for
Primary,
single
two-family,
family.
owner occupied.
Yep, owner occupied.
And
yeah.
then the others would pay for 1.90.
Yeah, they're not getting the benefit of it.
Not really a big benefit. Not only that, they're gonna see a tax increase, so there's gonna be no.
There's no.
Which you didn't do it in
Yeah,
So they're gonna see a 2% tax increase on a $300,000 home. What did we say that was? roughly.
1832. 37 cents per thousand, so would you say a $300,000 home?
Yeah, it's $90.
Times 0.37 cents, you just see $100.
So they're actually gonna
See an
see
increase of,
70, 60 numbers, 60 change, whatever, $300,000. So they're still gonna see a tax increase, so. I'm just looking for that text to see when it was the last time we did a senior exemption.
they said, I agree we should give some. We need to make sure we understand what it could cost in the future. I am not a fan of taking it out of surplus. And I would love to keep the tax rate under 2. That's sort of where I am.
I mean, the difference between the 1869 or the 1867 is $6 in their increase in their tax bill, on a $300,000 house. And but that would be giving us about 54,000 in wiggle room to cover half the exemption. Right?
Actually, for a while, they had been misinterpreting the way the exemption ordinance was written. And they had the amount frozen at $258
Mhm.
for a number of years. It was supposed to be a $10,000 exemption. So as tax rates changed and revals and things like that, that exemption amount never,
That's why it's 14 now.
right.
Right.
Right. Which is where it should have been going back a number of years. We were just able to do that the last couple of years. That's right.
Maybe that's what you're thinking of.
That's what I'm trying, what we did, we adjusted it, but it helped out severely, much different than what this is. Kayla Chadi will be here in about 15 minutes. You send it?
I sent it.
It's gotta go all around the world, then come here.
I mean, I think the bottom line is there anything? What changes to the revenues or expenditures can you do outside of the tax rate to minimize the effect on the tax rate?
I mean, I'm not sure there's anything left, is there, based on our conversations?
Very
The
tough.
first time since I've been here that I bumped up the collection rate, it's always been at 96.8.
Which is a conservative, which is, I'd rather have it that
Which
way.
is, I think why
Yep.
we've been
Yep,
having surpluses. So
yep.
the bump up to 97, I thought was a big step. I wouldn't want to go too much
Nope.
higher.
I agree.
So.
What are you thinking? You guys?
It's a big ask. It's more than I thought it was gonna be.
It's a tough one. Like I said, it's one of those things, I think you're damned if you do, damned if you don't, it's.
Yeah.
I think, I mean, and Sal, correct me if I'm wrong, I think you threw out figures if we froze taxes, it'd be cheaper than 150,000. Over the first year anyway, well, long term. What was the figures if you froze taxes right now?
I never did anything for freezing taxes.
I'm not a fan of that. I mean, that's a.
No, I know,
yeah,
but
Unless that's very income based. If it's, I know Warwick has a plan where
it's income based.
if you earn less than, or you have less than $15,000 in income, your taxes get frozen. Well, that's a,
No, we have like a circuit breaker where we give additional money to disable the seniors that have income under a certain amount.
And actually, that was changed in the legislation that we
Right? That,
received.
that's going to be changing also
Yes,
with
I
the
did
rest
see
of the
that.
package.
Yes.
We haven't proposed to make the changes in-house yet. That is not being used by many people at all. I think that there it's, I think it had a couple of $1,000, I think in the that category. So,
And the other point to consider too is I am always extremely conservative on the revenue side, all the departmental revenues. The building and clerk have been coming in pretty high, so. I mean,
Oh, did you text him?
So to get to the
Oh,
199,
text
you
me his
did,
number. I'm looking at my phone.
it's 2 cents on, just 2 additional cents on the residential 2-family home. And that gives us about 54,000 of wiggle room for when that would cover about half of the cost of the elderly exemption.
if you went, or if you did it, the 50, it would go another $60,000 instead of 150. Would be an increase in the exemption up to, be like a $2,000 increase in the exemption. 36 bucks,
The legislation being passed doesn't specify. what-
up to.
no, yeah, it's an up
Up
to, so
to.
we have, we don't have to go to, no, because actually the number was
And-
bigger, a
and-
lot bigger than I thought it
right,
was gonna be,
that-
because it
yeah.
went to,
And I would suggest the same thing for our ordinance, up to, and then each year as the budget comes,
Yeah.
you decide.
yeah, so there,
what
we
you
don't,
wanna
we're not
do.
locked into a particular number, no.
Jay, just in time.
Hi, Jason,
Sorry, I'm late.
how are you?
Had a week.
We're on the senior exemption.
Yeah, well, no, actually, David talked about what you had suggested, and my only concern is how that gets done. I would not be a fan of taking it out of surplus, because then you have to fill it next year. I mean, that's not an operating thing, so we would have to bite the bullet at some point, and so where we kind of went was, well, what's it cost? And originally, if you did the 150, which Sal was breaking out between elderly and veteran, it was going to be a tax increase of 225. And my opinion is I'd like to have that number begin with 1 instead of 2.
Yeah.
So
But
we're kind of going back and forth about where what the number should be.
so when we came into the last meeting, we were at 2%, correct?
235.
Okay. We made some reductions.
Yeah.
And that brought us to,
1.9.
1.9.
okay. So right now we're at what?
We're still at 1.9.
We made a suggestion to go to 1.99, which would be an extra 52 cents on the rate, but an extra 50,000.
That could be about 54,000 wiggle room to cover part of the exemption. or-
Okay. And we're still looking at 150, correct?
No.
No.
No, it would be
Fif-
less than that, yeah.
60,000 would be an increase of $2,000 to the exemption, $36 in tax dollars.
That's just,
For the elderly.
For the elderly, that would keep it at 1.9, under 2%.
And what's the veteran piece? None.
Nothing.
and there's no way, so what was our surplus last year?
In fiscal year 23,
We're over $1 million, right?
yes, I believe it was 1.49.
Okay, so here's my thought process with that, and I don't want to text you on this, as I'm standing
No,
around.
I shared that thought process.
Yeah.
So basically, I'm looking at, we had a $1.4 million increase. Sorry, $1.4 million surplus. And I'm sure that came from various places. But part of it was people already paid, us included, paid taxes on that. Right? That's That's why we had that rate last year. Money came in, we have a surplus of 1.4 million. I'm looking at $150,000 of the 1.4 million that people have already paid on to cover the senior exemption. And we'll still have a surplus from 2023 of 1.25, if it's 1.4, correct?
But then
So
you
we
gotta
didn't
pay
lose
for-
anything.
But then you gotta pay for it the next year and the next year and the
How
next
many
year.
years have we had a surplus? Significant, we've had a significant surplus every year since you've been here. So I feel very confident that, you know, it's good to break even, but we're only looking at $150,000. I mean, that's where I would go. I would even go higher, but, you know, 150 is, I think, secure.
But it, well,
What do you think?
I'm, like I said, I'm never in favor of plugging an operating budget with, I'm just not with surplus. It's a slippery slope. I get it. You're talking about 150, but we're gonna have to come up with 150 next year. Suppose we don't,
300 next year.
that's correct. It'd be 300 next year because it kicks in, yeah.
But we have that adjustment. We don't have to go that high. We don't have to go that route. You know, I think right now, given the fact we have 1.4 million, that's my thought process, is to use 150,000. I'm looking at, all right, so at the end of the year, when you come up with that number of 1.4 million, I'm looking at that as, okay, we have $1.4 million left over that we didn't think we would have from the people. So what do we do with that 1.4 million? If we spend it all, we still break even. Right?
And you have no savings. You have
No
zero.
saving, what do we, so,
It is supposed to build up our, what they used to call a rainy day fund.
Yeah.
But
it should not.
our fund, unassigned fund balance that we're supposed to have a certain percentage
Right.
according to the charter. So we've
So
been
do-
pretty busy building that up. We're about where we're supposed to be right now. We're not over. Yeah.
we were at a point, I remember what, 6 years ago? At 250, couldn't even buy a house, we had $250,000. You
I didn't
know?
even think it was that much. No,
Oh, so
no.
I know, you know, over the years.
We
you
don't
worked
want to
hard.
even think about being back there. Yes, yeah.
I don't, I just think 150 is a drop in the bucket, and I think the seniors deserve it. You know, and so do the veterans, and I think we found it, you know, I think, you know, going next year, we need to find it again. That's the job. That's how I feel. I know you disagree, but
I'd like to see a reduction in everybody's taxes by $28, and I'd feel better off that than off the tax rate than,
Than just the, yeah.
because as I said earlier, the concern I have, all right, they're gonna see, based off the tax increase they're gonna see this year and the exemption increase, they're still gonna see about a $60 to $70 tax increase on a $300,000 home. That's what we were throwing out earlier. Now, there's 1,600, around 1,600, 19 or 16? 1,900 homes
Seniors.
that actually, single-family homes that actually utilize the senior exemption. There's 6,800 homes, single-family homes total. So the other 5,000 homes are all going to be paying a tax increase, not including this tax increase, but a tax increase for the seniors themselves. So that's where I'm having a tough time with this. That's the only reason I'm having a tough time with this. I agree that, you know, the seniors have been here. They've been paying for hopefully they've been here for a long time, been paying taxes for a long time. I understand, you know, I have relatives, and I've had, my own father was, you know, senior making $1,200 a month pension. I could see him not swinging a tax bill every year. But, you know, that's where I feel, you know, it's like you want to help as much as you can. But, you know, at what cost, and who's ultimately the single family home taxpayer and the businesses are paying for it. So it's not like we're giving them an exemption where nobody's covering it. Right now, the taxpayers are covering. So that's my only concern. I mean, I'm for it, but it's, how do we do it properly?
The other thing we talked about is something you mentioned last time about spreading it over all categories. And that doesn't get a warm and fuzzy reception. I don't know if it makes sense. I've sort of been asking them tell me why it doesn't make sense. But businesses would get hit with it.
Apartments, rental housing. The 3, 4, 5 family houses.
Do we care? You're right. It was a nightmare the last time that happened, and I don't remember when that was. I don't think I was on the council, quite honestly.
No, you weren't. I'm gonna be
Yeah.
honest with you. The way rents are and everything, I'm not feeling bad that 4, 5, 6 family houses right now with that. I'm really not.
Well, in
Tell
that
me what
case,
you want. I'm not feeling bad.
in that
about it.
case, you can do that.
So if I did 1.99 for all 4, it would be about 72,000.
What I'm feeling bad for is the single family homeowner. You know, when these business, to me, 3, 4, 5, 6 family houses, that's a business. That's plain and simple, that's a business.
Yeah, but that'll be passed on to the renter though.
And it sucks because they're paying $2,000-$3,000 right
Right.
now. I was told just last night, although it's right over the line in Coventry, people are paying over $3,000 a month for rent in the mills. Royal Mills just seen, Dogwood just seen $250 increases on their rents per month. Just, they all got $250. That's East Greenwich Avenue. That's his ward. You know, $250 increase per month. I'm not feeling bad for big multifamily because they're just socking it to everybody. And they're collecting as much as they can because they know they can. That's the sad part.
Are you comfortable with that?
And the swing is a matter of a cent or two per thousand.
That'd be half the amount that he's looking for.
Well, you did the 199, assuming,
Across the board.
and what was the amount you used? The 150 or the?
No, it increased at 72.
So
Yeah, you're going the other,
I'll kind of go
Backing in.
backing in to
Yep.
see how much wiggle room those tax rates are gonna
and
provide.
it gives you 70
About 72,000.
of
And
the
that's
one, of the
considering our-
150,
Our other items that we still have to vote on.
of the
So,
150?
Yeah,
Which would be your original 99 and 50, 100 and
Yeah,
50.
yeah, 50 and 37, 50.
Mark, to answer your question on that, I think one of those units, one of those buildings on their letter of increase said due to taxes raised this year. We haven't even raised them yet, so they're already hitting them. Just using an excuse because the average
they always
person doesn't
will.
even,
Right.
the average person's not paying attention to what the taxing, renter might not be paying attention. A single family homeowner is probably paying attention because they're paying. Well,
I know we want to stay below 2, but
I do. That's just my opinion. It's.
yeah, it's a much better number, right?
Yeah.
It is, but if we spread it across all 4,
Mhm.
it would be 225.
It's 199.
199. I did.
No, and got the full 150.
Oh,
Um,
Well, 150 is just a number that we threw out there. I mean, basically,
One,
if we double it, we do 250, right? Right?
150 times 2 is 300.
Thanks. No, I don't, I didn't mean that. At the rate they are right now, we'd have to, what's the number we had to come up with to double?
So if I did.
500?
We're going higher now?
No, I'm talking to Sal. Right, we had talked a while ago about a number to come up with, a number that would, we would have to come up with to double the exemption. And what was that number?
Oh,
Was that 500? Okay,
Yeah.
so, obviously we can't do that. So when I threw this out there, and I did that because, Alan Plaza would come up, I don't know, 8 or 9 times and asked about it. So you know what, let's see what we can do to make something work. I wasn't fixed on a certain number at all. First I said, all right, do we double it? Can we double it? Do we back into a certain number? What's this number gonna mean each time? And that's why it's before us at budget time. So we went with 150 because that was a number to work off of. So if we can't do 150, we can't do 150. But we have to give, I think we have to give something.
I don't have a problem with giving something. Again, if we can keep it under 2,
Yeah, so
So what do we have?
to get 150, we would have to do 2.15 across the board.
Go to put with 100. What would that be?
Probably gonna be a little bit over 2.
and are you talking strictly elderly at this point? Or do you?
Well,
are you
whatever
talking
we
both?
give the exemption to now, I want to do the same thing and then just,
Oh, well, so that's a different
so I'm
story.
not quite sure what,
Strictly elderly or elderly and senior and veterans?
what are the veterans? How much extra would it be for the veterans?
The veterans would be half the amount we give the seniors.
Which is why he came up with the
150.
150,
Right.
150.
Okay.
Two point oh five.
What?
2.05 across the board, we generate about a little over 100,000 and we're doing.
That's 100 for that 100 is for seniors only.
It could be either one. It could be 75,
So we could- all right,
25,
okay.
or it could be,
So I'd
All
like to
seniors,
include the
whatever.
veterans too.
that's the total amount that 66, 33, whatever.
So your number was at 2.05? And what's the difference between 199 and 2.05? As far as money?
So we would have her go down to 50, 50.
There was another
50.
30,000.
50 and
1.99 was,
37.5, right?
Mm.
Didn't we come up with something like that? Undo. I mean, if we could keep it under 2 and give seniors and veterans a little more, even though they will see a tax increase, they will.
So the 1.99 gave us about 76,000. It's like, this is about half of the 150. But again, you know, we're always very conservative with revenues. No. I'm not overly concerned about it putting us into any kind of deficit position, but
At 199 across the board.
correct.
So that means that the exemption would go from, rather than 14 to 17, roughly 14 to 15.5. It's something.
Working in the right direction and the legislation is fixed so that we can do it more easily year after year after
Yes.
year. Once we understand, because we've already, the deadline's already come and gone. The other thing we talked about before you came in was, what about situation where this sort of gets publicity and it explodes and it doubles? You know, would we be able to handle that? So, because we're never going to walk it back.
No. of
Whatever
course
we give, we're never going to walk it back. So I would prefer to go with that, I think.
And
So,
again, like I said, we have time to decide what we want to do based on the legislation that gives.
So we have a base this year. And every year is a new year.
Yeah, so can someone summarize exactly what we've just done and committed to?
could it increase the budget
know.
by,
So as it stands right now, and again, remember, the values are still,
Yep, they're
Changing.
moving.
but once we vote on the 38.8 that we still need to vote on,
Mhm.
raising the taxes at this moment in time by 1.99%, it should generate enough to, for us to definitely broach the subject of the.
At what rate? At how much?
76,000.
76,000 and breaking it out however. And there's possibility that you might have a little more wiggle room once final numbers are in.
We could-
Maybe.
It depends. I don't know how many more. Do we have any more
And
tangible?
if we get
coming in?
lucky on the tangible end,
Right.
the tangible, we're just doing a final cleanup. It should be done next week
Yeah.
with those numbers.
So it's certainly before
And
the
that-
23rd, because
yeah.
it has to be, right?
Plus the state legislation. You missed that part. The tangible exemption that was passed by the state is looking, there are some communities that are looking to change it because they were going to lose money. It would cost us $130,000 if the legislation passes,
If it changes,
if it
correct?
changes.
Right.
If it doesn't change, then we're going to make a little money,
The only,
200.
the only thing that would change right now will be, we would just need to know what we need to put forth on the resolution that will fall on the 23rd. That resolution is what we.
And maybe it will require a meeting before that, who knows, or we could change the resolution, I guess, at the meeting too, if we needed to, you could amend it.
The resolution is a not less than, not more than.
Well, that's your levy.
No, that's the,
levy
yeah, but,
resolution.
The resolution that puts it to the voters.
right,
Is, it's the total budget less the other revenues. That's how it reads.
okay,
The other community I worked in, it was based on the expenditure.
which most of them are, I think.
The appropriation is what gets approved, so I was
Right.
surprised to see it set up that way. That is the way.
So again, we would have the ability to amend it if need be
Mhm.
on the 23rd, and you will have a better number next week, you think? Yeah.
Slightly better, they're not going to change. I'm not expecting millions,
So we're not going to have the windfall we had a couple of years ago.
not unless something drops out of the sky.
Okay.
Any other further discussion on that one? That's been a long one.
Oh, yeah, don't forget to vote. Motion to,
So
for the, want me to say them again?
please,
Increasing the tax assessor revaluation by 24,000 to 184. Increasing the revenue in the reevaluation reimbursement by 19,200 to 147,200. And increasing the consulting line in the general government from 25 up to 60 by 35,000. Total changes net effect to the budget is 39,800.
I make a motion to approve the changes outlined by the finance director totaling $39,800.
Second.
Any other discussion on that? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Any other budget concerns from the council?
So we're going to operate under those parameters that we just discussed. Yes, keeping it,
I mean,
keeping it at 199, whatever the number is, it is, and then move backwards from there as far as.
Yeah.
Okay. You're comfortable with that, Jason?
Yeah, we have a base. That's what we wanted.
Yep. And we'll start the process and figure out, are you comfortable with that?
Yeah.
It's a lot. It's a lot.
It is. I like the 1.9 coming in here today.
Yeah, so did I.
And we just used up all that wiggle room, but that's what we do. So we have to do.
I think it's a better alternative than using surplus to cover, and creating a hole going
Yeah,
forward.
I understand the concerns with that.
If we were swimming in money, that would be a different story. And we are compared to what we were. I get it.
Right.
Yeah.
Any public comment on the budget? Any public concerns on the budget? Anybody online?
And just in case, that 39.8 was included in that 199. Yeah, okay. Thank you.
Hearing none.
Motion to adjourn because it's a separate meeting.
Yes.
Yes.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Thank you. Can I actually make a motion to move into executive session?
It's a whole meeting. Yeah.
Have a whole meeting, huh?
Executive session?
Yeah, it's listed as a separate meeting. Because we didn't know what order it was
Right,
gonna
right,
go in. Yeah.
My daughter? I think she's. You know, Jesus.
No.
I should not.